Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes with LandscapeBusinessCourse.com, and today is a very special episode. I've been super busy the past few months and really have not been able to create any cool episodes for you. So I kind of apologize. I wanted to make this one a little special for you. And so usually the only time I do coaching calls is with the franchisees, but this individual, Mark is his name, today is going to actually be a live call where he had reached out to me last week, and he was really struggling with his business, and I wanted to see if we could record it. And so I asked him if it'd be okay if we recorded the episode while I was talking with him. And so this is just a straight recording of a Zoom call with a landscaper. You're going to see all his numbers. You're going to see me break down his revenues and expenses and things like that. And this is really kind of like a 45-minute call, I think, similar to what kind of I would do with a franchisee on a monthly call. So I just need to make this disclaimer. I can't do this for everyone. I hate that, but I can't. I just don't have the time. And so this really is just for the franchisees. I know I'll be asked a lot to have special calls, but I can't. I just don't have the time. I really wish I could, but between everything that I got going on, I really have to prioritize the franchisees. I just wanted to do this one because I wanted to create some content for you all, and I really thought this was a good call for you all to hear in terms of looking at your expenses, knowing your numbers, and running those numbers on a daily basis. And some really good, there's really generic numbers I can throw around sometimes, and in this industry, you see ranges of how much you're spending on employees or how much you should be making per employee. These are all questions that are very subjective to your local market, what type of services you do. But today I'm going to give some very concrete numbers for him, and I think it'll really help a lot of people. So I, first of all, really want to say a big thank you to Mark Hansen, being very vulnerable and just honest and open to me sharing his story and recording this. And I told him it's going to help a lot of people. So I really appreciate him just saying, yes, let's go for it. And it's okay to record this for everyone to hear. So kudos to him. A lot of people are not that humble. They do not have the stomach to be able to let other people see their dirty laundry, knowing that everyone has dirty laundry. Everyone has made mistakes. Everyone's been in the same position. And so if you could please comment below, encourage Mark. I do not want hateful comments. Obviously, we all have dirty laundry. Mark is being vulnerable enough to share that with everyone. So please, you will be blocked from my channel or anything if you start saying mean things. This is someone that is struggling, obviously, but humble enough to share that with myself and other people publicly. Think about that for a moment. And I have plenty of issues. And so please don't be hurtful. Be constructive. Say something positive for Mark in the comments below to encourage him, because we all were here at one point. We all had to get through this time. And so I hope something today helps Mark, and I believe it did. And I hope it also helps you. And with that, let's go ahead and jump in the episode. Before we do, though, one quick announcement, and that is if you're listening to this right after I record it, you might want to be interested in coming to Discovery Day. This is our first one. We're going to do it every 2 months, where you can come here for one day and kind of get a tour of Augusta, the brand. We go to the training facility, we go to Command Center, we go to the Bellingham shop, we go to the Mount Vernon shop. You get to see kind of how it all works, and if you're interested in becoming a franchisee, this is a must. You really would love to come here and see it. I know I've talked to so many people over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 months that are interested, but you can come actually see it in person, get to see myself, some of the team on a Saturday. So it's June 20th, the whole day. It would start at 9 a.m. at the training facility. And I know there's one person that is already coming, but I haven't really announced it yet. So June 20th, 2020 is a Saturday, and I'm going to spend that day completely with you. I'm going to take you around in the bus and make sure that you get a tour of the facilities and see if the franchise is something that would work for you, would be good for you, if it's a good cultural fit for you joining Augusta Nation. And so if you've been thinking about becoming a franchisee, if you're interested in seeing our shop and our location and want kind of a one-on-one time with me, I'm going to be with you the whole day, probably 9 to 4, 9 to 5, take you out for lunch, take you out for dinner, have a good time, and more importantly, I think you'll learn a lot. So that's going to be free. There's no cost to that. Down the road, we'll probably have to add a cost if there's too many people. But if you're interested in becoming a franchisee and you just want to come here for a day, hang out with me, take some shop tour, learn, and consider the franchise, I'd love for you to come and check it out. So it's Discovery Day. It's June 20th. And if you're interested in coming to that, right now, like I said, there's only one person. So I think I could probably do about 4 or 5. And beyond that, we'll probably have to start charging to bring that number down, just because I want to be able to have some one-on-one time with you, really see if you're a good fit for Augusta and the culture that we built here. So if you're interested, just email me franchise at AugustaLawnCareServices.com. That's franchise at AugustaLawnCareServices.com. That email goes to me, and I will be able to make sure we have accommodations ready for you on June the 20th, 2020. We'll be having those every couple months, discovery days. Really looking forward to that, because I know a lot of times we can do calls and video calls and all that, but until you're here, you really get to see what we've built and what the culture and what our mission is behind trying to change this industry. And I think some of that passion comes out even in this call today with Mark. But that's really what everything we're doing at landscapebusinesscourse.com and Augusta is all about, is changing this industry and raising the level of professionalism, and I'm very, very passionate about that. So without any further delay, let's jump into this call. It's about 45 minutes with Mark Hansen. Here we go.
But I'm basically just going to give you, the 30,000 foot view and see what we can work out, see what I'm doing wrong, what we can fix. So.
Cool. Let me, for some reason, let me get my AirPod done so you can hear me a little bit clearer. Okay, forget it. As long as you can hear me okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, awesome. So what's been going on?
So it's been, being a business owner is a roller coaster ride. You know that better than anybody. And so that's kind of just how it is. But for some reason, this year's been worse than it has in the past. So I was finally able to get out of the field this year for the most part. I've got 2 crews running right now, and I've got 3 full-time guys and 3 part-time guys. And so my lawn care crew is completely full through the whole week. My crew lead is working a full 40. He usually gets about 45 to 50 hours, give or take. And then everybody else kind of just fluctuates in and out. But my biggest thing is I can't get out of the hole. I feel like I'm in a hole and I can't get out of it. So every time I start to get ahead, every time we start to put a little bit of money away, every time we start to get good clients and everything goes smoothly, something comes in and messes it up. So for example, we had our biggest billing month of the history of the company, and we billed close to $12,000, give or take. And that was all gone in basically the week I got it.
Was that for May?
Yeah. Yep. So, and that doesn't include all of our landscape. I think we billed like in total 16,000, but the way we just bill at the end of the month. And so I got $10,000 that came in off of that. And then it was like, I was all excited because I was like, that's 2.5 payrolls. I can put one of them away. I can pay off a few things and stuff like that. And I couldn't use any of it for it. Like it all went to paying contractors and, paying for repairs and stuff. I've got this truck that my problem is I don't think I can afford a loan on another truck to give to my landscaping crew. And so I've bought the used stuff. So, you have to take what you get, and this used truck has issues, but it's just every single time I take it in and get something fixed on it, within a week, something else goes out. My mowers are the same way. I've got this older Snapper and an older, I think it's a Yazoo or something like that. And I just fixed a spindle, a clutch, and a belt on the Yazoo, and my guys take it out today, and I've already got a pulley that's shot on it, and it looks like the other spindle went out. My Snapper, they were going to use it today, and they couldn't because it wouldn't start all day. And so I told them to, charge the battery or hook it up to the other mower and just let it sit for a second and try and start it, and it won't start. And I just replaced the engine on that at the beginning of this year. I just did the clutch on it as well 2 weeks ago. So I feel like my wheels are spinning. I've lost my motivation. I don't want to go out to do estimates anymore. I don't want to go out and work anymore. And I've got health issues as well with that, but I've been able to manage those health. Like I've got Epstein-Barr's and mono, that the symptoms kind of, come whenever I get stressed or whatever, but I've been able to manage it. All last year I worked 70, 80-hour weeks. And this year I just can't. There's days where I can't even get out of bed just because I'm so exhausted. I go to sit up and I fall back asleep and, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just done. I really want to sell it and just be done with the whole thing. But I know if I do, I'm going to regret it. Because if I go to work for somebody else within a year, I'm going to be sick and tired of working for somebody else, because that's why I started this. And I'll be back in the same boat. I won't be happy, and I'll want to do something else. And so I just don't want to be flip-flopping back and forth. I've got a girl that I'm trying to set up a life with. We're hoping to get married in the next 2 years and, buy a house, all that kind of stuff. And I really want to make this work. I really want to stick with this. I just feel like I don't have the capital for it. And I feel like I'm going to go under, if not this year, this winter or something like that, So
So I just want to get a little bit of information. So
Mhm.
so May 2020, 16K approximately in earned revenue. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then for 2020 total, what's your kind of guesstimate on what you'll do in revenue? Like 140?
We're planning on about 110, 120, I believe, if I
Okay.
remember my numbers correctly.
Okay. And then what are you paying on average for your employees in terms of per hour?
13, 14, give or take. My crew leads are at 14 and my regular guys are at 12 to 13, depending.
It's about 12 to 14. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then what do you charge by the hour uh, to your customers?
Our mowing is usually between 60 to 70 is what we try and bill. And then our landscaping, we started the year at 85, and I've just bumped it up to 105. And so estimates have slowed down at this point in the year, especially with everything else that's been going on, all this craziness. So I haven't had a whole lot. I've had probably 3 or 4 jobs at that 105 an hour, a man hour.
It's per man hour, the
It is.
105?
Yep.
Okay.
That's our goal. That's what we shoot for.
And when you say it's your goal for like say 60 to 70 for the mow, are you hitting that goal
The
or
mowing, 90% of the time, yeah. Spring's always rough, so we've had a couple of rough weeks, but we haven't had a whole lot of rain here. And so my guys are usually sticking up on stuff. We can usually get on Monday, well, Monday's a weird one. Thursday, we have a list of 16, give or take, clients, and they hit that every time. And so they can usually do 16 in an 8 to 9 hour shift.
and
So
what's the kind of the average price per yard that you're charging there in terms of dollars?
we have a minimum of 35 just to come out. And then most, like a third of an acre yard is about 45 to 50. So that's our most average yard here is a third of an acre, a quarter acre.
Okay, cool. All right. And then last year in total revenue, 2019, what did you do? Do you remember?
77.9.
What was it?
77.9. 77,900.
Got it. And so from last year to this year, you're gonna probably grow about 50%. Was it the same way? Did you feel the same way though last year still?
So our first year in 18, we did about 35, and I felt great just because it was me and like 2 other guys usually. And then in 19 last year, I was able to hire a guy towards the middle and end of the year. So I was still working the 80-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks in the beginning, and I was able to hire some people on, and they took care of me fairly well. But this year's the year that I've been out of the field as much as I can. And I felt really good for the first 3 months. Like last year was horrible for my health and for me and, all that. This year I felt amazing up until the last month and a half. And now I feel like I'm in that same boat.
Do
So
you think like the physical like side of things is affected mostly by like just the financial, like the pressure from all of that going on?
yeah, we have more debt this year than we did last year just because of, more equipment and that kind of stuff. And so it helped being able to be out in the sun and working and stuff like that. And I usually will get out and work in the field maybe 10 to 15 hours a week just for, if they don't finish by 5 o'clock, then I'll go out and do it or something like that. But yeah.
Is most of your debt like equipment then?
Yeah. So we've got a truck, a trailer, and an ATV, all that we don't own that we're paying on basically. So those are the biggest things. I've got rent, but it's really not very expensive. I don't have a shop or anything like that, unfortunately. I was thinking if there's anything else. Those are the big.
What's the total on that debt right now? Just on average.
And then there's credit card debt. Sorry. So between the credit card, the truck, trailer, all of that, I'm sitting about 24, 25. So the truck's about 8 right now. The trailer's 35. The ATV is 67, I want to say. And then what am I missing? Oh, the credit card's about 5. So, and then I've got my personal credit card that I pay that with the business just because anything that's on there is usually food for the guys and stuff like that. But I don't usually, I make the minimum payment on it because I'm right now, I'm not taking any money because all of my bills come from the business. So I don't take, pay or anything like that. Cause even if I did, it would all go back into the business anyway. So it's just easier to keep it all.
So when in 2018, so because something's not adding up with the numbers. So in 2018, when you felt good about it, were you full time during that time?
Yeah, it was the same way. We started in May of that year, and I was working the same 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, give or take. So,
because something's not adding up. Because if you're having that high of a rate to the customer, if you worked 1,000 hours doing mowing in a year, you should be doing more like 65, $70,000 per employee.
maybe my guys are lagging behind, and that's where we're missing stuff. So,
yeah. Are you tracking time right now, or how are you working that?
the best we can. So we don't track individual jobs. We just track, day by day. So, but I could tell you pretty much about how long it takes each of our jobs. So I can show you if you want to.
Software do you use
No,
right now?
say what?
Which software do you use right now?
We're using Yardbook right now.
Okay, cool. Let's pull up like yesterday. Was yesterday a pretty average day in terms of mowing? Or I guess it'd be last Friday. Or I guess today would work.
It rained a little bit Friday. If you can open up your thing so I can share my screen, I can show you kind of our schedule and stuff like that. And that'll help me identify stuff that's going on.
Let's see here.
So I'll just share you this whole screen and you can see what I see. So this is our regular weekly schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And today it rained really bad, so my guys didn't get started for 2 hours late, and they still, you can see they didn't get 2 of them done. But so for example, last week, see, we got everything done. There was 2 cancellations, and then this one, which actually got done, so it should be marked as done. But yeah, so everything. So Mondays are commercial day. And they'll travel about 30 minutes away from where they start at any given time. And it'll take them, if they start at 8:30, they can get all of these ones done usually before 5:30. So the only one that's iffy is this last one because it's an apartment complex. But this is residential. These 2 are storage units. So this one takes them about 45 minutes. These 2 take them about a half an hour each. Rhett's is like 15 minutes because they just trim it. And then these 5 are a hospital complex and a strip mall, and I believe 1 residential.
Okay. And I'm not super familiar with Yardbook, but like, is there a way to see how much revenue you generated on that specific day? Total?
I'm sure there is. I haven't gone into the whole...
You're good.
I need to. That's the other thing is I feel like I'm just drowning in everything that I have to do. That's another. And I would love to. That was one of the things I wanted to mention to you. I would love to hire an office manager. I just don't think I can afford it at this point.
Yeah.
So let's see reports.
So like, you probably know the cost per mow on a lot of those people, right?
For the most part, yeah. So George is about an hour of labor, just for example. And so an hour, including the drive time to get there and have my guys actually do it. I'm looking the 15 or the 14 for my lead guy and then the 12 for my other guy. So that's 7 right off the bat.
Let's select just the one day we're looking at, whatever day that is.
So for example, we'll go to the 1st. All right. So yeah, so that's our whole day from last time. So
let's just add them up here real quick. Do you want to read off on the job price estimate? Just read them off to me.
Yeah, for sure. 42.5.
Yep.
And then 15, and then 20, and then that one is 40, and then 145, 110, 95, 55, 45, and 40.
All right, so Total revenue $607.50. How many people are on this crew? Two?
Two. Yep. At 27 an hour, give or take.
Their wages, you mean?
Both of them together, yeah. Yep,
Got it.
27 an hour.
And then do you happen to have their time clock? Like, do you know how long they worked that day?
I can. I can pull that one up. So they both worked 8.74 and then take off 0.5 for lunch. So 8.24.
8.24 each for each of them. Got it. All right. So that's all I need. Okay. So if we take 8.24, multiply that by $27, you're looking at 222.48 gross pay to them. If we assume, payroll, taxes, and all the rest of it, let's just say $250. But let's just look at gross pay for now. So 222, we divide that by 607.5, which is their revenue, 0.366. Got it. So then we do.
So my labor cost for them working that day is only 36% of what we made.
Correct. So is that a pretty average day?
Yeah, for the most part. I can show you the rougher day, which is Wednesdays. Wednesdays they don't usually get done with anything or with all of the jobs just because I have too much scheduled that day. So that's usually the day that I go out and I'll spend 2 hours myself. And so, for example, if we were to pull that day up, I'll give you the numbers on that one. But
so real quick, just so your percentage, like the 36% of your revenue going towards labor, that's not super horrible. I've seen worse. It's not like incredibly low, but it's not like that's not a huge red flag for me. What the bigger red flag for me is the fact that your hourly rate for them combined is like $37, under $37.
is it under? You think it should be higher?
It should be, yeah,
Gotcha.
for sure. Because like if you're targeting $60 to $70 per hour when they're mowing, which I understand there's going to be a certain amount of inefficiency, let's assume that they're actually hitting budget hours on the job. That means that we're going from 60 to 70 with their max capacity, max efficiency. And if you're going all the way back down to 36, it means about 45% of their day is waste.
Gotcha.
Right? So $37. Got it. Okay, cool. So this is Wednesday, right?
Yep. So for these ones, it's just Matt and Nate. And I don't know why they don't line up, so I'm going to have to see if they're changing. Oh, no, I had to go back and change that. That's why.
No worries.
So,
okay.
Total hours worked for these guys today would be 19.5. And then the total for revenue is going to be 40 plus 36 plus 45 plus 40 plus 35 plus 35 plus 37 plus 185 plus 46.5 plus 37 plus 20 plus 35 plus 37 plus 39, and that's it. That's the total.
And did they actually finish on that day? Like they finished all of these?
No. So the big one that they don't usually finish is this one. We've had an issue. Their sprinklers come on in the morning when my guys are there. And so I usually end up doing these to Lacey and Alan. So if you want to,
let's assume on this specific day, did they finish those ones or not?
I did.
Okay.
So they got done, but I had to go do them.
So let's subtract those two out.
So minus 37 and then minus 185.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. All right. And then they work 19.5 hours. We're going to say at an average of $13.50. So 1350 times 19.5. Yeah, this is a tough one. All right. Divided by the revenue here.
What was my revenue for that day?
445.
So much lower.
Yeah. So on this one, you're at like a little over 59% of revenue going to the employee or just to labor, right? And so once you look at payroll costs, you're already over 65. And then once you gas, fuel, like all that stuff, you're losing on that day big time. Anything over 40, I get really, really afraid when it comes to labor versus revenue, right? Because we're looking at gross revenue too. So like if there's a spray that you're upcharging on or dump fees or anything like that, we're counting everything right now. So like anything over above 40 is a massive red flags. Like if you start calculating this every day, big red flags if there is anything over 40. Like you can almost guarantee you're going to lose money on that day. Whereas like 36%, you do that every day, you're going to be okay. Like you'd probably run a 10 to 14% margin business if you scaled that, right? Like it's not going to be like, I'm talking if you scaled it, right?
Right.
Using those margins and using those numbers. So go ahead.
Can we do Thursdays? Thursdays, They usually are a heavy day, but they're able to finish them all.
Okay.
One that I kind of try and do everything off of.
And so like on that day, for example, their dollars that they're actually earning per hour on the clock is $22 per hour. Okay, so this is now, that was Wednesday. Now we're looking at Thursday.
So we got, for the revenue, 45 plus 40 plus, that one doesn't get done, so 35 plus 30 plus 35 plus 35 plus 51 plus 37 plus 40 plus 39 plus 39, 39, 37, I believe, on that one, and then 38.
Got it. All right, so total revenue is going to be 540. And then what's the time clock for those guys that day?
That one's going to be 17.75.
Okay, so 17.75 hours. We're going to assume $13.50 per hour for labor. All right, so we got 540 revenue, 13.5 on average per hour multiplied by 17.75. So our total payroll for that day, just gross, is 239.63. So we divide that by our revenue, and we're at 44.4%. So again, it's over 40%, right? And so honestly, this is just like a really easy number for you to get used to just calculating, just to know your numbers. Like I don't care about all the ratios and even dollars per hour and all that. But like if I simply take your revenue, 540, divided by the number of hours that they're working in a day, on this day, they're making $30.42 per hour that they're on the clock, right? There's just no margin for error on that kind of a business, right? You're not going to have any net profit.
Right.
And so one of two things. One is you're not charging what you think you're charging in terms of hourly rate, right? Because if they work 17.75 and they're 80% efficient, like they're working 80% of the day, if we run those numbers, we go 17.75 multiplied by 80% is 14.2. Let's assume just $60 per hour that they're working, not the 70. They'd be making $852 in that day instead of 540.
Wow. Okay.
So one of two things is happening. One, they're ultra inefficient. And when I say that, I mean they're spending 40 to 50% of their day doing nothing. or two, on the job site when they're actually mowing, they're not making 60 to 70, even though that you might be shooting for that in terms of budgeting your hours. They might just not be hitting it. And I don't want to accuse them of just being lazy and chilling the clock. If you might be looking at a job like, oh, it's gonna take 40 minutes, but every single time they come, it's consistently taking over an hour. Then they're set up for failure, right? Like they're not going to be able to hit 60 to 70. And I agree with that number. Like that's why I knew something wasn't lining up, because if you're doing $60 to $70 per hour for mowing, like I said, your revenue should have been on that day like 800 something.
Right.
So because generally you can assume about 20% at least inefficiency for mowing, because you got drive time, you got to unload clippings, all the rest of it. And that's a good crew. Like a crew that has to drive far away, doesn't have a tight route. They might be 30%, but you're like at 45 to 50% inefficiency throughout the day.
This route is all within one city. There's probably a 20-minute drive time from one end to the other.
Got it. Yeah, so it's got to be one of two things. That is either, the times are off, like how much you're budgeting for the job, and that means basically you need to raise your prices. Or two, you do just have a crews that are not sleeping on the clock, but like they're just dragging their feet, waiting in the truck. Because like 40-50% of efficiency can go like that. That's 10 minutes in the truck before, 10 minutes after, stopping a couple times at a gas station, and that's 40% of their day that's wasted, right? And that's the numbers that I'm seeing now in terms of just looking at so you've obviously done the jobs. When you do them, is that kind of when you're at $60 to $70 per hour?
Easily. Yep.
Got it. So have you implemented any sort of P for P or like any sort of concept for the guys yet? Or not?
I've seen the changes that you're making with yours, and I've thought about it, but this was what I really wanted to do, was figure out where I stood, because I don't know if a P for P would be good just because these are our numbers, or if it would be better. I haven't done a whole lot of research into it yet. And it seems that your crews are so good that it makes sense for you guys because they're already running at that 80% efficiency level. So
it's like the other way around, honestly. Like it's like the reason they're that efficient though is because of P for P.
Okay.
Because they didn't used to be that efficient, right? And I don't think in your scenario, Mark, like doing a full-fledged P for P program is going to be the best thing to do now, right? Like right now we need to figure out simplicity and like track one number. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that number for you is going to be payroll that you pay them a day divided by revenue. And I would just track that number like crazy.
Okay.
So if you take let's do this. Revenue divided by how much you paid that crew in a day, okay? And even if you just want to make the payroll number flat, like say $14, if you just want to make it flat, and then what I would do if I was you in this scenario, try implementing all P for P. That's going to be a 5-6 month process. If I was you, I would track this one metric every day, revenue divided by payroll, and every time they're over the number 3, give them some sort of a bonus. Because if they're at 3, that means that you're under a 33% of your revenue is going to the payroll.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What kind of a bonus? Is it like a per job bonus, a per day bonus?
I would do it as simple, like everything's simple, right? So I would literally do something like you get $20 if you're on a crew that does above the number 3. Okay. And I would track that every day. I'd have a scoreboard. So we do this. We have a scoreboard. Like I could pull mine up here right now, actually. See if I have it here.
Yours are on like a Slack or something like that.
We just do it in Excel, but you could literally do it on a piece of paper. Like I don't really care how. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get a good example here. Yeah, this is a bad day. So let me show you a bad day, since bad days are always good to show. So this is an example of something I get every single day. And that number on the right-hand side is exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you.
right? So that's a daily, we call max metrics, or like a score that we give every single person based upon revenue divided by how much they're being paid. And that's just the base rate. So we just use a round number, $18, and are trying to determine how much they make, right? And this is a bad day, right? And you got people like that are literally 2.5, 3 times more efficient. They just had a great route. The other people I know, they had some sort of issue with their truck or something. So like stuff happens, right? But the bottom line is I'm seeing this every day. I know, and then we have an average that we have at our team meetings, right? Where we take all of those from the whole week and we put a number on the board. But the bottom line is, we have a full out P4P system where that's what they're thinking about in every single minute. The problem with doing what you're kind of thinking is, as soon as they have a bad job or it's raining, they can kind of just decide like, okay, I'm not going to go for my $20 extra today, right? And that stinks. But like on the flip side, I still think someone that works 8 hours is going to go for that extra $3 per hour if they can be more efficient. That's basically what you're giving them, right? Like if they get $20 on a 7 or 8 hour day, they're making like $2.50, $3 more per hour if they're that efficient. And that's going to very quickly determine if it's your budgeted hours on the job that's wrong, or if it's their lack of efficiency and commitment to their job, right? Because if all of a sudden you implement this and the next day they're finishing jobs, in 6 hours instead of 8 hours, that extra 2 hours was complete waste, right? And so I think something like that would be the first step, because you're going to determine, because if they start there, if they're really trying to kick butt and yet they're still hitting like 2.4, 2.5, then maybe it's a matter of you needing to go to those jobs and look at, okay, like really am I going to be able to get this done in time? Is it $60 to $70 per hour when I'm solo? Like can a two-man crew, are they still hitting that number, or is it going to be more like 40 to 50? Right? Because that's probably what also is the issue too, right? You're solo, you're going to be like $70 an hour. But when you put two people together, there's an inert amount of inefficiency because there's two people waiting on each other. And so they might go to say $50 per hour. Well, now if they're a little bit wasteful at all throughout the day in terms of not being efficient, you're down to where we're at right now, 30, 22, 35. So like that's where I would start in terms of the financial side. And honestly, in terms of you being an owner, like I wouldn't take it hard. Like I honestly think it's a revenue and it's a money thing. Like that will wear anybody down. Like I remember being there and losing the sleep and I remember taking a loan from my brother my first year because like I knew I would not be able to do payroll the next week. Like I remember all that stuff. That was horrible.
Yep. That's where I'm at.
And so like I think the number side, you need to have, like right now, you need to be able to, like, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you're thinking is what yesterday's number was, like 3.1. We're at 2.6, right? And then get your guys involved, right? Like every day, you literally just need to do this. Crew 1 have their number, crew 2, and literally, 3.2, 1.6. Literally, even if you draw it on a piece of paper like this, and are just showing them this the next day and be like, hey, crew 1, congratulations, $20. I'm going to give you guys cash this afternoon when you get back from the shop. Like that'll get some people moving, right? And you're going to all of a sudden probably find the one employee that is completely slacking off because the guy who wants the $20 will now tell on him instead of letting him sleep in the truck.
Right. And that's exactly what we need. Okay.
I honestly think this is the thing. The reason the numbers weren't lining up, Mark, is because where did all my papers go? Mercy. Where did there we go. Let's see here. The reason the numbers weren't really adding up for me is because if you look at how much you're making divided by your employee count, it's very, very low, right? Like you should be able to pull in $110,000 almost by yourself every month in terms of being solo.
You're kidding me.
$110,000 a year. Sorry. Right, did I say a month?
Yeah, no, you did. But no, I know what you meant. Like, but I mean, 110 a year myself is insane. Like that's mind blowing.
You can do that. So like you should, a solo person, because you're so efficient and because you're going to be able to charge a higher rate due to the fact that you're an owner on site, can easily pull in 10 to 12 grand a month.
Okay.
And not working 80 hours. Like I'm talking 60 to 70, right? And so I do think like if you were working in 2018 full time, like cranking it out and made 35, there's a very good chance that it is a pricing issue, because it wasn't like in that year you made 70 grand and then you hired someone and then you went to 80 grand, right? Like there's definitely, you are the most efficient employee. And so if you only made $35,000 in 1 year, you know, your next employee, you're lucky if he's at 80% of your efficiency at like 25 or 30. Well, 25 or 30, immediately that's gone in salary, like gone, right? Especially if they're full time. So I really think number one, you probably do have a pricing issue, right? And that is just like, you might look at a job and say, it's gonna take 40 minutes. So I'm gonna times it by $60 per hour. Therefore, I'm gonna charge $40. But if that mow takes an hour, now you're only charging $40 per hour. And that's when the blades are spinning, like on the job.
Right.
You know? So I do think that's probably the issue, but I would actually start with trying to create efficiencies, because that's the immediate fix. The immediate fix is creating a hybrid P4P system where you're going to be able to make your guys more efficient. That's like the quick jolt in the arm that will like kind of save you in the next few months. Then what you need to do, because what's going to happen if they become more efficient and they actually gravitate to the P4P, like at least this $20 bonus that you do on a daily basis, if they gravitate to it, which maybe not, but like it's something, so maybe. But if they did, the next stage is, in a couple months looking at your pricing and seeing if you need to start raising prices.
Okay. All right. Now,
I really believe that if you had one helper, you could easily do 110K in revenue. Like, I mean, that should not be hard in terms of pricing. Like, very simply, like, so the Mount Vernon location, it has a manager and one employee. So basically 2 people out in the field, and they're going to do 22,000 in revenue this month. Now we're in a different market. We're going to charge more like $80 per hour on mowing. Right. But that being said, their payroll's higher, right? So it's just a matter of, even if you take 30% of $22,000 off and said you made $15,000 per month, like that's doable, very doable for you and one other person. And so if you do P4P, what's going to happen if they actually start to gravitate to it, even though it's a kind of a scaled down version, you're not going to need one of these people. You're not going to need either a part-timer or a full-timer. And you're going to become more efficient. And then what's going to happen is you might raise your prices, lose some customers, and cut another person. But now you're doing it at a higher margin, and you have less overhead because you have less people working for you.
Okay.
Like those are the 2 cuts I'd make, right? Number one, efficiency. You're going to immediately get a jolt in the arm if they take to that. Regardless of whether or not they do, the next step is increase the prices. If you lose 20% of your customers, 20% leave, but you're able to raise your price by 20% in terms of like going from 40 to 45, like that $5 is all the money. Like that is where your profit is right now, Spending
less time out on the jobs and making the same.
And honestly, if you go back to you and one other person in the truck, that'd be fine. Because number one, they're going to be ultra efficient because now they're with you. But I genuinely believe that you could do at least 80 to 90 grand with you and one other person.
Okay.
If you're priced correctly and you're efficient.
And that would be awesome for us, because with that, I could get out of debt this year and work on getting better equipment that doesn't break down and new trucks and all that kind of stuff, and then expand next year.
Yep.
We're in a much better spot. Okay. Now, I know most people usually increase prices at the beginning of the season, and obviously this year is a huge anomaly. So if there's any time to increase it, we can reference COVID and all of this other stuff to do it. Have you seen a whole lot of success with that? What would you recommend in that whole thing?
Yeah, it's going to depend on your local market if people are pretty price sensitive or not.
And they are.
in terms of the COVID thing, right? I don't mean price sensitive in general, because everyone, including me, thinks my customers are price sensitive. Everyone thinks that their customers are price sensitive. But I mean, in terms of COVID, like if it really hit your area, if it's like taking out manufacturing, which is a big part, or something like that, we didn't raise prices this spring. We're doing it next year, right? But in general, you want to raise prices when demand's very high. So that way, if they want to go get other bids, they're waiting 1, 2, 3 weeks to hear back from people. And those people, the other contractors, are so booked, they're not even advertising, right? And so I would, the two places to increase prices is middle of spring rush or during a fall rush. Like, if it starts growing pretty heavily in September, that's another time to do it. And a lot of times because they're like, oh, it's only another month or two of mowing, let's just go for it. And they get used to the new price. And then next spring, you just continue, right? So those are the two times. So I really think you've got a couple months here to really, number one, test the idea of P4P with your guys. Literally just start. I wouldn't even float it by them. I'd just be like tomorrow, like, hey guys, we're going to do this new thing where I'm going to show the crews and the revenue divided by the payroll. And that payroll number, we're just going to use $14. And whoever gets over 3.0 each day is going to get an extra $20 cash the next morning. And I would take $20 bills and give those to the employees the next morning. Let them see cash flowing and being given out, And so that's going to be step one. Step two is like, you still got a few months. Like you can go and actually start analyzing which properties are underperforming. And one thing about Yardbook, I don't know it enough to be able to know if it has this functionality where it can do time tracking, and you can start being able to see like, okay, am I ahead of budget hours or am I behind? And what's the variance of either or? Because if I'm way behind, it's going to make it very clear to you in 3 or 4 months whose prices needs to be increased. Because I'd rather you not just do a blanket shift in price. Because like you were mentioning, as you were talking about it, there's some you make some money on, there's some you already know you're kind of don't make much on. And so I'd rather your variance on budgeted hours and really know which ones are underbid.
Okay. And then work on those for the pricing in the fall.
Yep.
Okay. And Yardbook does have that functionality. So I'm going to go back and see if maybe I should be able to automate everything that you just did every single day. So tracking how many hours my guys did versus how much we billed successfully. So that shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. So, and there's certain functions that are a little bit harder. Like the full P4P system takes into account nice things like callbacks and damage cases. Like it integrates all of that, but this is a really good place to start, and sometimes this doesn't work. Like, I'll be honest. 1 out of 5 times your guy's like, I'd rather sit in my truck all day than for $20 extra. But on the flip side, it's like they can go from $13, $14 an hour to $16, $17 an hour if they hustle, right? Because their hours that they work in a day is also going to get compressed, and which will elevate the dollars per hour that they're making. So it's a win-win for them. It's a win-win for you. And if you can consistently stay around 30 to 35% revenue, 30 to 35% of generated revenue going to employee expense, you'll turn your business around. Just that one thing.
And that's what we really need. Yeah. Having that one, what was it? A 50% margin or whatever. That's insane. 59% or whatever.
59% of what was going to labor, right?
Yeah.
So traditionally, I can tell you right off the bat that you probably lost about $140 on that mow route that day, right? And that's assuming nothing got broken, no callbacks, that no customers called you, and you're not charging for your time on those. You had to get these guys started in the morning, right? So there's just a lot of, admin and all that stuff we don't even think about when it goes into 59% labor, because your time isn't calculated into that, right? And so you can't mow and lose money. And that's why you got to think about when you do raise prices, if you do, that like you can't keep doing, it's not sustainable. You're going to run yourself and your crew. It's not good for them. If you know that you're going to be out of business in a year, it's very bad for your crew if you keep going down this path, right? And so I just, number one, try P for the $20. Track every day, revenue divided by 14. And if you're coming above 3.0, you get $20. That's step one. Step two, let's really begin to track your time on those jobs and see which ones are lagging. And we should just take the bottom 50% and increase their price. And that might be next spring, right? It could be this fall. It could be even next spring. But that's definitely something that you're going to have to do because you're not generating enough revenue for the amount of employees you got. Because the number of employees you got, you should be doing 30 to 40,000 a month.
Right? And that's the other thing is not all of them are lawn care and not all of them are, full routes or anything like that. But I mean, if I have them, I might as well be making money off of them. Right. So.
Yep. And the thing too, is like, even if they're on a small project or something like that, you can still run this ratio.
Right. Per job.
Just make sure you're taking the labor revenue divided by the payroll, not the total job cost. Because in the total job cost, you got materials and everything else in there.
Okay.
So you can still run this for a landscape crew.
Okay. All right. Okay, that works.
I know we mostly just talked about the number side, but I really think that's going to be the unlock for you personally too.
Well, and that's what, honestly, I came into this not knowing what was going to help me. So, I mean, if this works and it helps, then I'll take it and run with it. And then I'll meet back with you in a couple of months and see where we can go from there. But that's what I needed. So. Yeah.
And don't be discouraged if the P4P hybrid thing doesn't work. Like I said, I've seen it not work sometimes because guys are like, hey, it's a hot day. I'd rather just let my $20 go and sit in AC, right? So that's a tough part about having the hybrid thing with P4P because it doesn't it doesn't unlimit them. Like it still has a ceiling, right? However, you probably know your guys which ones would take to it, and guess what? If 2 of them take it, and the other one's like, man, this is dumb, you could literally fire all the ones who don't think it's cool and get the 2, and they'll perform fast enough to get all the work done, right?
Right. And you mentioned in one of your videos a while, it's been a couple of months, I think, but you mentioned if you could have gone back and done something different, you would have just focused on the lawn care. Do you think I should consider redoing my website and all that kind of stuff and just tailoring everything to the lawn care side of it? Getting rid of the landscaping crew, all that kind of stuff. Would that be?
I'm just looking here at your page. Services, landscaping. The thing is, you don't do much with landscaping, right? Like it's mostly small stuff, mulch, bed cleanup. It's mostly labor.
A couple of yard installs this year, but I farm out the irrigation installs and the grading, and then we do the sod ourselves. So even those aren't that crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, I would stay away from like subcontracting altogether. Like if it's irrigation, for example, like, hey, Mr. Jones, you get everything base prepped, then we'll come do the sod. And there's a good chance you're going to lose that job, but your time in admin of subcontractors on some of these small landscaping jobs I'm seeing, you're just not going to be able money once you factor in your time.
Right. And that's who spends most of their time on it is me, because I'm the one that's able to actually go out and do it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't abandon some of the things you're offering, like weeding services, bed cleanup. Those things are just labor, and that's like great markup, and that's great upsells for your existing mowing customers. So I wouldn't forego those yet. I just would stay away from anything that is project based above like a 2-3 day project. Like you don't want to touch that right now. Gotcha. It's just not going to be efficient, and you don't have time to go manage those jobs.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So maybe Mark, in like before fall, let's try to get on another call and let's see how, number one, the P4P kind of thing went, how that went. If it takes, I genuinely believe you'll let 2 of your people go. The ones who don't really take to it, you'll take the 2 people who really like it, and they'll get all the work done. It's incredible how all of a sudden they'll go from 59% to 30% because they'll be trying to, and the thing is, if you're transparent about the numbers, they know they start figuring out in their head, like, okay, I need to get these jobs done in order to make the $20. Like they're not idiots, right? If you share the numbers and they know the pricing and they know what the structure is, I think it'd be, they won't be sapping the clock either, because they know, hey, if I can just clock out before say 4:30 and I get all these jobs done, divide that, okay, I'm going to hit that extra $20. So if you just get 2, even one of those people, you will be able to get all the work done. Like I'm telling you. And if one person takes to it, I would go right for the price increase on the bottom 50%. Maybe you lose 20, 30% of your clients. you'd be far more efficient and far more profitable with one employee. I genuinely believe you could do 70 to 80 grand in revenue easily.
Okay. Awesome. All right. I'll get focusing on that, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see where that goes. So yeah, I'll get back on your calendar invite thing and set up something else in the next probably 2 or 3 months, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I'll keep you updated on how it goes over this next week, and I'll implement it tomorrow and see what happens.
Good stuff, Mark. You have a great evening. Take care.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.